Okay, I want to talk about the passport application, passport renewal process when you're in Australia. And the reason I want to talk about it, especially with respect to sort of some kind of urgent travel, this really caused me a lot of stress. And I just kind of want to maybe save people time and energy in this process if possible. Okay, so I had to apply for a passport for my daughter who's almost 2 years old, and I had to renew my passport, which has been expired for like or it hasn't actually it hasn't actually expired, but I needed 6 months of validity to get a visa. So it was still valid for like another 2 months, 3 months, but I need to renew my passport anyway. Okay, so it's actually a really easy process. If you don't need the passport like urgently, like I did, then you literally just submit the applications at the post office, and you don't have to put an urgent rush on it, and they can even mail it back to you. And I think it's very easy as long as you don't mind waiting. Okay, they say 6 weeks, but I think you could probably get it even within 1 or 2 weeks. Okay, depending on when you apply. So that's that. But I really want to focus on when traveling is urgent, like it was in my case. So I'll even give you specific details of what happened. And I can actually give you a comparison between the normal passport application process and the rushed application process. Okay, so and the difference between the two. So so what I did was I applied for my daughter's passport on let's take the long weekend as like that's our timeline because it was a bit it was a pretty important period. So the Wednesday before the long weekend, I sent the application to so let me just put that here. I'll draw a picture for you, okay? So you have the Wednesday, and then there's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So this is the long weekend, okay? So obviously, no one works on a long weekend for this kind of thing. So I put my daughter's application. So this is a passport application, and I put it in the ordinary, just a normal application. So with that, I think the only difficult thing was you need like someone to guarantor your photos. So you get your application form from the post office, your local post office. You fill it in, and you basically need someone to sort of who's known your daughter or the child for at least like a year to sign the photos, and to basically you can use them to witness your signature as well. That would save a lot of effort. You don't have to prove other things if you use the same person, and that person just needs to be an Australian citizen. And if they voted, it's sometimes awkward because they need to put their passport number, but if they voted, you don't have to actually put their passport number. You just have to put their address and stuff that's um and their name that would have been on the electoral roll. So they don't have to find their passport or anything. And once you submit that in, um, so I actually kept pretty close eye on this process because I kind of regretted submitting it as an ordinary application in hindsight because I didn't know any better. Because didn't realize it was actually that urgent at the time because I didn't think I needed to get any visas for her and stuff like that. I thought she was going to use a travel document, but I actually need a visa, so then I needed to hurry. So when I submitted, I thought I could change it to a priority or a rushed application after submitting it, which actually is possible. But if you understand the process, you'll understand why it's better just to get it rushed in the first place. So and then okay, the long weekend starts here. So the Friday, I actually submitted my passport renewal, okay, for myself, and I did put a rush on it, okay. So I put a rush on it, and it's literally the kind of thing that you wouldn't really need a rush on. It's like pretty much like it's my passport is still valid, so it's like out of all the sort of possible things you could do, this is probably like the simplest. So to do a passport renewal, you literally just go on this website that I'm here right now, Australian Passport Office. You either log in or you create a login and then log in, and you start a passport renewal application. And basically, all it is is you have to print out a page um known as the checklist. And from in most cases, like if you already had an old passport, the checklist will just be like bring your old passport, and then the guy at the post office will certify your old passport, and then submit the application. Okay. So, but the only thing is when I paid the fee, so I think it was like around, it's probably like 150 or around $200 for a passport, but to rush it, you have to add like another 270 or something like that. But I don't know, like it seems maybe like a lot if to spend on one day, but like you think about it, the passport lasts for 10 years, okay? And so no matter what, so I used to there was used to be an option for 5 years, but like if you can get it for 10 years, it's definitely worth it. Like for example, like a passport is not just used for travel, it's used to prove a lot of different things. So for example, I used my passport to prove that I was the father of my child at their, like to give them Australian citizenship basically because it was still valid when they were born, even though I wasn't traveling and it was like at the end of the expiry. So if I'd only got a 5 year passport, I would have had to find another way to prove that. So the 10 year thing is definitely worth it. And I think the rush is probably worth it as well. I mean, it saves you a lot of stress. Putting the rush on it gets the thing back to you in like probably like less than a week. Okay, but then if you're really in a hurry, you probably want to pick it up from the passport office. But if you're not in a hurry, you can just get it to mail it to you. Um, but yeah, I think. But if you're gonna rush one application, you should rush all of them. Okay, you shouldn't have them separate. And if you're in a hurry or any sort of timeline, like not even like I feel like even if like you're traveling in 2 weeks, it's probably still better to rush it. I mean, and if you're really worried about that, I don't think. See, I don't think if you're doing international travel, like everything costs a lot anyway. This is just part of the cost. I don't think you should really necessarily, but this is not, this is more like just my opinion now. But kind of like it, you shouldn't worry about these costs, like in the big picture of things. Okay, you just got to accept costs, and you're gonna spend a lot of money anyway when you're traveling international. Okay, so I sent my passport application, and on the Tuesday, the first working day back, I called the number they gave me. I think it was like 131232 or like some 223, or it's definitely 131 and it's like 323 or something like that. Okay, it's one of those numbers. I can look it up now. Hold on. I called it so many times. Yeah, it's 232. It's 232. Okay. And basically they're very helpful and they tell you what's happening with your passport. So on the Tuesday, okay, um my rushed passport had just arrived. So in the morning at like 9 a.m. it hadn't arrived, and at night at like about 11 a.m. it actually arrived. Okay. And where it arrived actually is an important distinction. Okay. So when you put a rush on it, the passport goes to the Sydney passport office. Okay. Or the town that you're in. Yeah. Whereas the one that's ordinary, it went to, like in this case, it went to like the printing center or wherever, like the factory in Victoria. Okay. So my passport just arrived and the other one went to Victoria and it was actually already finished. Okay, so this passport at this point was finished. Okay, and they said it, so they told me it was ready to collect, but it was a mistake because so the call center people they're not actually in the passport office, so they just have what's on the computer, and so it's important to distinguish between the passport being finished and being ready to collect. Like being ready to collect, there'll be like an email sent to you to tell you that you can come and collect the passport. And of course, if it's mailing to you, you just wait for the mail. But if you're in a hurry, you'd go there and try to collect it as soon as possible. And what happens is, so then I kind of mistakenly went to the passport office on the Wednesday to collect my daughter's passport, which I thought was finished. Okay, but then it wasn't finished, and um, but um, But before I went, I looked at my progress, and my passport was actually almost finished as well. Okay, so it actually finished all the, it went through all the stages. So from 11 a.m. to like closing, it had actually gone through all the stages of the passport, and um, it was just in the printing queue by the end of the day. Okay, so it was literally just it was just printing. Okay, so um, but and also my passport, because my daughter's passport, because it said it was finished. Um, I couldn't change it to a priority or a rush pass service anymore. It was no longer qualified to do that, because basically no matter how much I rush it, it's still gonna take the time it takes to be mailed back from Victoria. You know what I mean? So that's like a fundamental like like time delay you can't actually reduce. Okay. So then I go there on the Wednesday, and in the morning, like then they said, "Oh, okay, so the passport's in transit." So the person in the call center kind of made a little mistake because they couldn't see it, and it says in transit from Victoria to New South Wales. So in the morning it's not ready, and then the guy said I could come back in the afternoon. Okay, and so I came back in the afternoon, and funnily enough, my passport still wasn't ready, but my daughter's passport wasn't ready, but my passport actually finished because it was in the print queue. It was actually printing as I was asking the first time, and so in the afternoon it actually finished printing. So actually, I got my passport on the Wednesday. Okay, which I was quite happy with. But so I was kind of hoping I could get my daughter's passport soon, because if it might have come in the afternoon, then surely it's got to come by the next day. Um, and so okay, so next day still no email. I was getting kind of worried because um, like what happened to it? Like what how long does it take to come back from Victoria? I had all these questions, and I was getting really anxious. Especially I'm traveling the next week, so like I have like 5 working days to get a visa on the passport. So I was kind of getting really anxious, and I wasn't necessarily the best customer. Um, and and I felt like every time I went there, I was kind of waiting longer and longer, and it was just kind of like I felt like something might have gone wrong. But I think ultimately it's really just like some sort of postal service that takes maybe 3 or 4 working days to get there. So I was kind of worried. Thursday, Friday, I didn't get it. Okay, so I was really worried. And then on the Monday, um, so I called them, and some of the people on the helpline were really helpful. They were like, they told me sort of the passport number and the the expiry date, so I can fill in my visa applications before I went there. And then actually, luckily enough, on the Monday, so after this weekend, the very next Monday, I got my email at like 9:30 or 10 a.m. and I was able to go and pick up my daughter's passport. And obviously, you need to bring like photo ID or something. Um, if you're picking up on behalf of someone else, and yeah, so that was quite dramatic for me, but it all worked out. And so you can see, like, yeah, even though I got it on time, I still wish I put the rush on it, because then you'd save the trip, and you could probably get the 2 passports together. Yeah, I didn't actually realize I needed to renew my passport at the time because it was actually still valid. And so in hindsight, I think it's good to submit your passports at the same time. And basically, if there's any sort of time issue, you should put a rush on it. Okay. Um, the money, you got to accept costs, and also there's a lot of cost to kind of traveling back and forth from the city as well. Okay. Um, maybe some specifics. So the office is in Elizabeth Street, 280. it's actually quite a chill area. Like they give you a waiting, and there's almost no waiting for the collection, and they give you a ticket, and you just go to the window, and usually it's really easy. But for me, I kind of made it a bit difficult for myself, and but it all worked out. So I guess yeah, what I'm trying to say is like you save yourself some stress and just make it priority in the first place. So I thought I could change it somewhere in the middle, but like if it's gone to Victoria, then no matter how you change it, it's not gonna come back faster than it's gonna come back from Victoria. Okay, and yeah, and it's surprisingly quick to make a passport. So even though it's 6 weeks, is the sort of it's probably the longest time you could expect to wait. Under most circumstances, I think you can expect your passport pretty quick, even if you don't put a rush on it. But I still recommend, I think, putting a rush on it to prevent it going into state and to get it as soon as possible. And you only have to do this, like, especially for adult passports, like once every 10 years. Kids' passports every 5 years. So it's not like something that you have to do all the time. Okay, yeah, I'm starting to rant now, so maybe I'll stop there. But so that was the passport process for me. Um, yeah, yeah, I didn't mention it. I didn't emphasize it, but yeah, like to get the child passport, you had to prove the citizenship at the time of birth. So you need a birth certificate, and yeah, my old passport, which was still valid, was actually very useful for proving that. And you don't have to send anything over. Like the person at the post office just validates everything and then sends the application form. So you get to keep all your original documents, if you're worried about that. And otherwise, it's a pretty nice. I mean, as far as applications go, I mean, it's not really a bad process. I think it's just good to be aware of like what the roles of everyone are and who knows what, because um like if you understand what's going on, then you won't be so stressed about the outcome. So I guess a lot of the stress that I had was I wasn't sure I was going to get my passport because I was only sort of guaranteed to get it within 6 weeks, and I was only sort of told to hope to get it in the time that was required, and that's why I think putting a priority or putting the rush service even at the extra cost is worth it. And if you can get the passports at the same time, that's all the better. All right, so good luck with your thing. I'm still gonna make some more videos about getting visas on the passports, and actually, my wife had to renew a Chinese passport, which is actually interesting as well because the passport time, like the time it takes to get the passport, there's no rush service for the Chinese passport. The time it takes was actually not fast enough for the travel time. So like we booked a flight before the passport could even be made. So we had to get something else instead, and I'll talk about that in another video. Okay, so